Ari Lewis Show.
You're listening to another episode of the Ari Lewis Show here on Israel Sports and News Radio. The email is israelsportsandnewsradio@gmail.com. The original air date of this episode is November 5th, 2015. We're going to be discussing the national Israel Rugby team, the women's edition. On the line right now from that team, Liat Geller. Liat, how you doing out there?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yes, indeed. It's been a long time since we discussed women's rugby on the program. Happy to do so. So let's talk about first, a big game is coming up over the weekend. Tell my audience about it.
Well, our boys are playing, our senior men, I should call them. They're not boys. Are playing Croatia as part of the European Champions Cup. If I remember the name correctly, they change it all the time. This is the second leg of the division. It's Division 2A. They finished the first leg. They didn't do very well. They were they just joined this division a couple of months ago. So they had to get used to a different style of playing from the teams there. So they had 3 losses and 1 draw against actually the strongest team in the division, the Czech Republic. So the game that they have this weekend against Croatia is actually a game that I think they can win, and they should win. They're a good, strong team, and they've been together for a very long time, and a lot of effort is put into this team. So I think they're going to do well. I hope so.
All right, just to emphasize, by the way, to get this out in the air for people listening, I know the game is on Shabbat. I'm not advocating anyone breaking Shabbat to go to the game, but if you live in the area and could walk to the game, that would be possible, correct?
Yeah. If you're in Netanya, you can actually take a very nice walk along the beach and get there. We know it's always a problem. We do have actually religious players playing in the league, and we understand it's a difficulty. But I think the reason that they end up doing it on Shabbat is just because most of the people are free, and it also works well for the teams arriving from Europe. So it's a very delicate balance.
Well,
I can tell you that in the women's league we have some of the tournaments are on Friday and some of the tournaments are on Saturday to allow the religious players to participate in at least half the games or half the meetings.
Okay, there you go. See, Liat, I don't leave anything off the table. I want to discuss everything. I don't want people to call me a hypocrite, so just want to put it out there. But there you go. People in Netanya, you can walk to the game if that's what you like to do. Now, let's talk, speaking of the women's team, let's talk a bit about them because that's a growing league and it's doing very well. You have 6 teams and then 2 more coming. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is very true. The league is really growing. When I started playing rugby, which was about 11 years ago, there was just 1 team, and that was the club in Tel-Aviv playing under the university. And immediately the year after, I don't think it had anything to do with me joining rugby. It just happened that way.
Hey, you never know. Don't humble yourself. You never know, Leon. Come on.
So the year after, a new team started up in Haifa, again under the Technion, and a team in Ra'anana, which is a big center for rugby. And ever since then, the league has been growing, but very, very slowly. And now we have 6 teams, 2 from Tel Aviv, and 4 more from around the country, from Jerusalem, which was actually where women's rugby started in Israel. I think around the year 2000. No one really remembers when. So there's another team from Jerusalem, Rehovot, which is a new team, Galil, and the team from Haifa. So 6 teams. And indeed, by the end of the year, we're hoping to have the women's team in Ra'anana that is coming back to life join the league, and a team from Kibbutz Israel, which is really the center of rugby in Israel. And it's about time they'll have a women's team. We're very happy about that.
Now, what's interesting is, as opposed to the men, the women do not get funding, but yet your team, the national team, is ranked 24th in Europe. That's pretty impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, this is something that has been steadily building. We're not funded. We have some very limited funding through the rugby union, as most of the teams in the union are. The youth teams have even lower budget than ours. And it's the same situation in all the sports organizations. So I'm not complaining. I understand that the union, they have it's a very small cake that needs to be divided between a lot of teams. But what we do have is that we have a group of very, very committed women that has been working together for the past 4 years. And we saw the fruits of that labor last year when we finished second in our division, which was then Division B. We unfortunately lost the final to Denmark, but both Denmark and ourselves went up to Division A, which was a huge achievement that we've been working to get there for a very long time. So, I was very happy with it and immediately announced my retirement.
Well, why retire at that point though? Just
Couple
because
of
you thought
reasons.
that was sorry, go ahead. Yeah, tell us why.
Well, a couple of reasons. First of all, I always had, I had this little dream where I said I want to make it to a final. I want to stand and I want to sing the national anthem, and it happened. And it was really, I think, one of the most exciting moments of my life. I mean, you can't explain it. I was standing there belting out the national anthem like I've never done before. Like in Israel, we're almost shy about the Tikva. We're like, oh, and it's a quiet song, and when you listen to some of the European national anthems or the American national anthem, that's all like, oh, say, and you feel kind of shy. And there we were standing there singing, shouting it, and it was, I think, really one of the proudest moments of my life. And I said, well, I was like, that's never going to get duplicated. I'm never going to experience anything like this. So that was one thing. And the second thing was that I'm 38. So, my body after 11 years of rugby is feeling it. And I think it's important to give space to the younger players coming through the ranks. And last, but certainly not least, I'm very good at I deal very well with bureaucracy. So a lot of people can play rugby, but not a lot of people can handle the red tape that goes around setting up a national team, working on a project, going to the European Championship. So I switched over to being the national team manager. So I'm still there. I'm going to train with them. I'm going to help them. I'm just, when they do the fitness workouts, I'll just stand there and laugh at them. So I think it'll be okay.
Laugh that you don't have to do it.
Well, I still do it because I also referee, so I still have to be fit, just not as fit as a sevens rugby player. So it's a good deal all around.
All right, well, all the fans want to know, Liat, when you sang the national anthem, did you sing in key or out of key?
Did I what? Sorry?
Did you sing in key or out of key?
Oh, you know what? I was so off key. It's not even funny. I was standing right next to our captain, and there's a video online, and you can see her tapping my shoulder. I was so excited. I was singing it. I was sprinting through it. So she had to slow me down because the whole team was singing at my pace, and we were finished after like 20 seconds. She was like, "Guys, slow down. There's still another minute to go."
Right, got to fill the time.
Funny.
Yeah, got to fill the time. Again, this is the Ari Lewis Show here on Israel Sports and News Radio, speaking with the team manager of the National Women's Rugby team, Liat Geller, here on the program. So talk a bit about some of the goals for the National Rugby team. Guys doing very, very well, as I mentioned, ranked 24th in Europe, no real funding. What are some of the goals down the road?
Well, I think the first thing we want to do is recruit more. We call them crossover athletes. And these are athletes on our team. We have three players that before they played rugby, two were in athletics. One was a sprinter, and the second one was in jumps, triple jump. Both very, very good. Another one came from Taekwondo. She was an Olympic hopeful, but it didn't work out at the end. So these are players we can integrate very quickly into the team because while 15s rugby is a bit complicated, 7s rugby is very, very simple. So, you can get them and expand the base of your players and the agility and pace of the team real quick. Through that, we'll get the team to be more professional in the way that they train, the way that they play. And this, I believe, will allow us to go into the Israeli Olympic Committee's pool of funded teams, which is what our men, our sevens team, the men's sevens team, is funded by the Olympic Committee, and it's I wish we had half of that. So that would be the biggest goal. The second goal, which is something that we're totally in control of, is staying in Division A. Teams from Division B, when they go up to Division A, much like teams from Division A when they go up to the Grand Prix level, which is where you have England, Russia, France, the big rugby teams, the big rugby nations, it's a shock. It's a faster, stronger game. And what happens a lot is that they just get relegated immediately back to Division B, and that for us would be a disaster. So I think, looking ahead 10 months from now, we still want to be there. And I think we can. I know Division A, and I think our girls are, that's where they should be. That's where they should play. And, last but not least, if we could get, sponsors to help us prepare, that would be phenomenal. So, and we're not talking about big bucks. We're very modest in our needs. So this is a very big goal. If we could get someone to, we do have a couple of sponsors, but we still need more. So I would say, looking ahead a year from now, this is what we need: the three big things.
Again, it's the Ari Lewis Show here on Israel Sports and News Radio, talking to team manager of the women's rugby team, the national team, Liat Geller. Liat, why is it then that the men's team is more funded than the women's team?
I think that when the the Israeli Olympic Committee reached out to unions, the women's team at the time was at a very low point. There was a lot of the veteran players just retired. I was taking a break at the time myself, but again, nothing happens because I'm there. It was at that time, and a bunch of other players were on a break or decided to quit or had babies.
Which is something the men's team doesn't really have to deal with.
No, I don't. I cannot recall one man that gave birth and couldn't play rugby because of it.
Maybe they're going to invent something at the Technion that one day will happen, but as of now, it's not happened.
Yeah, if it's going to happen anywhere, it'll be there for sure. So I think that when they were looking at both teams, they said, you know what, the women currently don't have a lot of potential, and the men maybe do. And it was promoted. I don't know exactly what happened and how things were presented, but I would imagine that it was easier to present the men as having more potential, and it just happened that way. But things are different now. I mean, the Israeli Olympic Committee is very much aware of us, and they're following us, and I think they're just waiting to see, can we last, or was it like a success thing, which happens, if you look at college basketball in the U.S., sometimes teams that make it all the way to the, Final Four, and then you never hear about them again. I mean, I remember UConn played Stanford in 1995, and Stanford, women, of course, and Stanford didn't make it to the Final Four again for ages, or Georgia Tech, who remembers the Bulldogs now, and they were such a big, strong force. So what they're waiting to see is, are we for real? Are we going to last? And I think things will be different.
Well, especially being on this show, because this will put you in the national spotlight again. So there you go.
Ah, God willing.
Yes. Liat knows how to use the media. She's a great manager, gets to the red tape, and it's coming on the program. So there you go. A few more minutes we have with you. Tell us a bit about some of your personal rugby experience. Now, you mentioned being a referee in Israel, but you're also a referee for World Rugby. Tell us about that. Go ahead.
That happened. Yeah, it was actually a huge surprise. I started refereeing 6 years ago. I was convinced actually by one of the referees here to give it a shot. So I started refereeing, and I thought it was something I was doing just for fun. But then a couple of years later, I was invited by Rugby Europe, or as they were called then, FIRA, to referee in the European Championship. And suddenly I was invited to referee in Rome and in Sweden, and referee men. So, I was sort of in the spotlight. Um, and next thing I know, I get an email last year, around April, saying, "Are you available in May to come and be an assistant referee in the Women's World Series?" Which is a series that, you can get it from the name. It's a World Series. They play around the world. London, Amsterdam, which is a huge tournament, Houston, and they were in Canada, Hong Kong. So they play all over the world. And of course, I said yes. And I found myself getting ready to run onto the pitch, standing between New Zealand and Spain, which was, oh my God, I was just watching them on TV last weekend. So it was really cool. And, I never thought, growing up, I grew up in a very small city, so there weren't a lot of sporting activities offered for women, and it wasn't even encouraged. So I would never in my life think that I would get there. So it's pretty awesome. And I actually counted, thanks to rugby, rugby has taken me to 15 different countries, worldwide till now. So, who knows what's waiting. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely, no doubt about it. Again, this is the Ari Lewis Show here on Israel Sports and News Radio, joined by Liat Geller from Israel Women's Rugby. So before we let you go, people out there listening, if they want to sponsor or support the team in any way, what should they do?
Well, I think the easiest way would be to go on Facebook. We do have a Facebook page, of course, Israel Women's Rugby Team. Very easy to find us, and just contact us. See what we're doing. If you want to support us in any way, and we're open to any suggestion, we would love to hear about it. The players pay for a lot of things out of their own pocket. So, if you want to help, an amazing group of women, go for it.
There you go. Good stuff. Again, another episode of the Ari Lewis Show on Israel Sports and News Radio. My guest has been Liat Geller. Liat, thank you for being on the program today.
Thank you again for having me. It was great chatting to you.
Yes, indeed. We'll have to do it again soon. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Again, this is the Ari Lewis Show on Israel Sports and News Radio. Email is israelsportsandnewsradio@gmail.com. God bless, and shalom from Israel.